Fireside Chat on cloud governance. We're looking at talking about building a resilient data center framework, a catalyst for Saudi Vision 2030. We're looking at talking about countries' appetite for cloud computing solutions, policies and regulations to facilitate cloud adoption in the country, KACST Cloud First policy, public sector migration from the traditional IT solutions to cloud-based models, and also cloud adoption and innovation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for this, we are joined by our eminent speakers. First up, Mohamed Abdel-aal, the head of Digital Experience and Innovation, Kaust, Saudi Arabia. Well, Mohamed is the manager of research and computing infrastructure, and he's also responsible for making Kaust the living lab for digital experiences and innovative concepts. We're also joined by Abdulaziz Alkhilaif, the Chief Information Officer, Dr. Rahman Al-Mishari Hospital, Saudi Arabia. Well, Mr. Abdulaziz is the chief of the information systems, and his work in the hospital and healthcare field is well recognized and appreciated. He's a leader in strategic governance, project management, business and system analysis, improvements, and in all IT management aspects. Well, thank you so much to both our eminent speakers for joining us, Mohamed Abdel-aal and engineer Abdulaziz Alkhilaif, for joining us on the World Cloud Show. We're really elated. With this, I'd like to pass it on to both of you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much for the introduction.
Pleasure is all mine. Over to you.
Great. And good to meet you, Mr. Abdulaziz, one more time. We've talked before. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So we're talking cloud today.
Yes, we are.
Wonderful. So let's start. How do you feel about cloud and healthcare? What's going on in the world?
I think the movement and the strategic movement from the sector in healthcare to utilize more of the cloud infrastructure is going to be a benefit of the whole sector in the coming years. When we are looking at readiness to adopt new technology in the health sector, we are always faced with the challenges of making those infrastructure ready. Deploying those infrastructure, putting them in place, configuration, and everything is require a lot of time. In the meantime, right now, with the pandemic and other changing factors in the environment, readiness to quickly scale up, scale out, and to have the capacity to cater for a high demand on services is going to be a key success factor in the coming era. So when we have this capability of extending ourselves to either a private cloud, dedicated for us, or a public cloud or public offering, that is also an added benefit for the team as a whole in the technology side and the business to say that we are ready to extend ourselves, we are ready to support more functionality, we are ready to deploy as fast as the business demand for us to move forward. We know that right now services are popping quickly to support that open architecture of cloud-based services. So when you think about deploying in the manner of that I'll start cloud-first thinking, that will cut a lot of corners. It will quicken the deployment. It will quicken the reaction. It will quicken even the timeline for the project, whatever your endeavor is. I'm very optimistic about the use of cloud in the health sector. I know there is a factor of security and confidentiality is in place, but it does free a lot of resources. It does free a lot of skilled people and time and effort from the IT itself in hospital. As I usually say, IT in hospital should be IT light. It shouldn't be heavily. We don't develop software as a whole. We should adapt. We should integrate. We should use those technology for the best practices. And you can see the approach from our governance is like They are providing those services for us to consume. So we need to be ready with our end. How do we consume those services to be really in line with the vision of the kingdom itself?
I couldn't agree with you more. I started my career in healthcare IT, and I spent some good time working in hospitals. And I know for a fact that real estate space in a hospital is very premium. You can't find space in a hospital easily. And as IT people, we were always scrambling to find rooms to convert them to become data center facilities, which they are not. And we're competing with patient care, trying to find space in a hospital. So clearly the cloud solutions in a healthcare setting makes perfect sense. You focus on what's important, which is patient care, and let the cloud people take care of the cloud. Now, for us, at least from King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, KAUST, we're an academic research institution, obviously, and we have varieties of research in different parts of the science and technology spectrum. But by the nature, faculty and scientists, they tap into the latest available tools and resources. And a lot of these things are delivered using software as a service. And SaaS is a form of cloud, as we all know. And that's an easy way to subscribe to tools. And as an academic institution, your faculty are creative. The scientists are always looking for different tools. So the SaaS world is a challenge because it's a very simple model. You subscribe, you pay as you go, and it's a cloud resource being delivered from somewhere. So we as IT at a university setting, we're trying to make sense of this. We're trying to, we cannot stop it, but we're trying to steer it in the right direction. If there are options for SaaS in an approved cloud data center facilities in Kingdom, then obviously we prefer that option. If it's not, at least we go through a due diligence process to analyze where that sits, how is the data secure, what are the certifications of the providers, and a little bit of due diligence to make sure that we're doing the correct things. But it is a challenge. Overall, SaaS is becoming a challenge and an opportunity at the same time. So we welcome the opportunity. We just want to make sure that we're doing it correctly.
I echo your opinion about it. It is a daunting task to have everything secure in a manner. But when you are thinking about it in a practical way, you need to look for opportunity to extend your capability with minimum issues or minimum phase for the issue. And as you said, it's all going to, at the bottom line, is that do you have those capability in-house? Do you have the team to support those capability? Of course, when we are talking about IT, it's not only having this capability, but also maintaining that capability, keeping it healthy, securing it, and so forth, and so on. So again, handing some piece of that, complicated, setup into a dedicated server or dedicated managed service is going to ease the load in the long run. It's also, moving to that utility model of we like to have this service, and we don't want to have the whole stack of the structure to have it. I just need that layer of making use of that service. So I do run with minimum number of people to support, and we extend ourselves by having those managed services in the form of SaaS or other type of deployment in services. So we could have same level of services provided within for the business, but with less of a headache, less of managed overhead for us. And I also echo your opinion about steering that technology in the right direction. We don't want to open it in everybody do whatever we want, but Also, at the same times, it's always going to be a struggle maintaining all of those technology together. So I could see it as the technology progress. It will become more appealing for other organization enterprise to go with that cloud. So they will offload some of the maintenance, technical expertise, those specialized skills into other dedicated team. And then, as you said in the beginning of your talk, is that we are in the health sector, we are always looking at that clinical side, how to have that interoperability together, and how to get those services and those information to the right care provider or staff or employee to actually progress the operation and do the business and the services. So I do like the model as a whole. I was an early adopter from back in 2016 as we deployed on a private cloud. So we have been running our core functionality on a private cloud for the last period of 4.5 years. And we extended saying that the opportunity when we are having those services that need to be closer to the end user than in our own facility, we always opt in for a cloud service, whether it is dedicated one or shared one. The market right now is clearly seeing that this is a very valid requirement, valid need, and it is pumping a lot of features or a lot of offering for enterprise to pick from. Right now, I extended another service on the cloud for a local provider, and we're looking at a third one just for our backup in case we're looking for even the disaster recovery to be on a separate also cloud. So I see a lot of benefit. It is the way to move forward, inshallah, in this future. But of course, we have our doubt, but we will clear it as we go along.
Yeah, I expect the word cloud will eventually disappear because it's going to be given, and we will be running resources somewhere. Is it a cloud? Is it hybrid? Is it private? It won't matter. But I think we're at that kind of height of that expectations that cloud is the way to go. But I think the word will eventually fade away. This is my prediction.
It will be a common way of deploying services.
It will be the new generations of deploying services. I think kids will grow up not realizing the old way of doing it. And here again at KACST, we've done the same thing. We have a hybrid model of a private cloud we've set up and a public kind of hosted environment as well outside. And we began the journey a few years ago. We began the journey in 2015. And we realized that the private model allows us to be more flexible, serving more of the, I would say, the more intensive compute, HPC simulation type environments. And the public cloud is more the standard off-the-shelf solutions, including the SaaS services as well, and ERP services. One of the things that I always highlight in cloud meetings or conferences or forums is an element that gets forgotten about connectivity. Cloud is wonderful as long as you have good connectivity and low latency. And sometimes we ignore that part and assume it's there. But the truth is, connectivity is expensive in the region. It doesn't come cheap. I think the market is being disrupted as well. And there's a lot of innovations happening in the market here in the GCC to allow connectivity to become cheaper. The major telco providers I think are doing a great job innovating with customers like ourselves. We recently at KAUST, at least, we've connected KAUST globally through a massive bandwidth link, 400 gigabits per second link, taking us up to Europe and down to Singapore. And that's giving us a little more connectivity options, but we know it's not everybody has that bandwidth. And and the hope is that you will have cloud solutions in Kingdom available, but also quick, fast, and again affordable connectivity options to connect these providers. You don't want to be hosting in a cloud in Kingdom and data center close to you, but that 100 meters or 1 kilometer or whatever, 10 kilometers, costs you double or more than the hosting services could be. So this is a challenge that we have to solve as a community. And again, think creatively about how to make this connectivity happen. You want to add a disaster recovery site, that's another connectivity, right? And that's another link. So there's a balance of cost and returns in this scenario here with clouds.
Yeah, I do agree with you in that manner. Connectivity is going to be the major factor of making sure that service is, for the last mile, is connected to the actual user that's going to utilize it. From my experience, we approach it in redundance. So, of course, maybe this is the common practice. But I'm just going to share that having that main ISP and then having a backup for it is sometimes enough in the manner of business-related activity. We added a third level of it, and we are thinking about that zero trust way of connecting to our private cloud. Now, of course, the traditional model of connecting would be a VPN or dedicated line, but we're thinking and exploring the fact of a new way of zero trust. So when that model of connectivity or authentication is going to be established, it will ensure that individual could link up to the private cloud as authenticated user without that dedicated link, secure dedicated link. So we're trying to look at alternative way to provide those solution of connectivity, even if it is not into redundant connection, but it's an alternative way of connecting. So zero trust in a way that we are trying to get the connector connection between the cloud and the user as an individual user. In the same time, we are connecting as an enterprise or an organization to that private cloud. So it's not only redundancy in the type of connection that we have with our ISP. So we have like fiber, we have microwave, and we have other ways. And then we'll have another methodology of connection. Maybe if we think, in a wider scope, how our end users, how our employees, how our customers connect and interact with the service that we provide. Other type of connectivity model would emerge, and then it would be a matter of securing multiple ways of getting to that zone. Maybe if we, as you said, I think in the coming future, connectivity would be a human right for everybody to be connected. So that grid and that future connectivity between all society and all society members would ensure for us that as much as we have the right to charge our phone, if we have the a way of sunlight, main power line or battery, it's the same for that type of connectivity. It's not going to be one way. It's going to be that multiple array of different ways to connect, and at the same time secure and authenticate the people that would be allowed to get this service.
And the other factor, and I wonder if it applies to you as well, is the energy cost, the power consumption. I know that recently there was announcements about the fixed, not the fixed, but the standard rates for cloud power and energy consumption in the kingdom, which I think is a positive news. But for us, we run quite a bit of an intensive modeling, HPC simulation, computational chemistry, physics, and many more. And these come with a very expensive energy consumption. Perhaps maybe ERP systems are okay, but when you do the modeling and simulation, you're in for a significant amount of expenses if not planned correctly and properly, especially if there's a variance in the energy cost. So we're very conscious of that with cloud providers, and we're very conscious of even private clouds, because we will still consume energy, even if it's a private cloud. I don't know if you see that in healthcare as much as a concern or less.
I think you summed it up, because we are running a simple management information system in a form of ERP and HIS. The consumption of the processing power and those input IOs it's barely minimum. It's normal processing. The majority of the processing power is always like between 5 and 10-15% all the time. Will never exceed that more of processing power. So maybe you would not get that affected with this as a part of a scientific institute and industry. It's going to be a different challenges. But at the same time, consumption on the power, it's not a major factor for us. It's on the other hand, having that power or not having that power. Those are the major challenges that we have. Allowing our hybrid model, if we have, because we still have to have an infrastructure here to support a simple data center or a server room that will give us like authentication identification services and network capability. So securing enough power with mainline, backup, and a UPS is that those challenges. Maybe it's different from your side. As you said, it's very detailed to see how much consumption for each processing power for each computing project or process. That's challenge. Alhamdulillah, for us, it's not that.
And actually, the opposite for us is also true. For example, when you do modeling and simulation, typically these facilities and data centers don't have redundancy by design, because you cannot afford to have redundant power for a supercomputer. So they're built and designed to be, single points of failure, and that's acceptable. The worst case is you'll stop the simulation. So you might pay more energy, but we don't add redundancy. And in the case of a healthcare, you're adding redundancy other way around.
But because it's a standard practice in healthcare to have that backup. It's to ensure the normal operation to have for the healthcare itself.
Of course, makes sense. And to me, the cloud providers are the one that have the challenge, because when they see two customers like us, one who wants more redundancy and reliability, and one who wants maybe less reliability but more energy efficiency, it's a challenge how you design your data centers for.
It always is, because no one size fit all in every deployment, in every solution. And the thinking of that for any solution provider, that they could solve it with one size fit all, is really an undermine of the whole industry and the whole need and requirement in the sector, in every sector. So it's going to be a debate. It's going to be a discussion, an exercise between the organization, enterprise, and the solution provider to look at the best way to serve their needs in the best way possible. Of course, financial is a factor in the private industry. Wherever you look, never industry that is private, but having that win-win. If I get what I want and you get something sustainable, that's the model I think majority of providers, service provider should look for. It's the sustainability in the long run that I think they need to invest their time and effort. What we're looking to see is that this service become like a utility. It's not going to be complicated. It's need to be first offering or first module of offering will be simple. It will cover 70% of the people. Then a specific one that will cover 20%. Those high-end like yourself that will have specific needs for even core processing and consumption of power, that will be covered in the 90% or 10% remaining of the 90%.
Yeah, very true. And again, I think the cloud providers have that challenge of understanding their customer, and it's a capital intensive business to be in. So you overbuild it or you undersize it, it's going to be a costly endeavor. And again, I always tell our cloud providers is think modularity, think flexibility as much as you can, but also provide us connectivity or options for connectivity that comes along with the package. So if the cloud providers are listening, I say it again, think modular and think of connectivity for us.
I do agree with you totally of modularity approach. It is, I think, the way that to move forward to provide something that it's like a blocks. You can build what you closely fit your needs. The other thing that I did have some discussion with cloud provider is that security should be inbuilt in those offerings, because we are not only co-location of servers. It's actual managed service. So you need to think about the security layer of reducing the attack service from your end, and not bother the client or the customer with these details. I require these services, I like this capability without the headache of catering for either the health of the server or even the security of the server itself. Now, that's something that I did have a couple of discussion with cloud provider, and I could love to see it in the future as part of the package offered by those cloud provider. Is security by design in a sense.
I think it's not an option. I think the only way for the cloud providers to add value and to make the business case for the customers is to package these things together. Frankly, there's very little point of having a cloud hosted environment where our security team has to worry about securing it on a daily basis. It kind of almost defeats the purpose. Now, is it a challenge for the cloud provider to get into the stack, between systems and applications? Yes, it is a challenge, but again, that's the business that you want to be building on, is how to package these things in a way that is very transparent to the customers as much as you can. But when we ask, I guess, the questions, and when we become curious to understand if a certain vulnerability has been addressed that is known in the world, we definitely want to get the responses that says, "Yep, we're on it, and we're patching."
We cater this type of things.
Exactly. I mean, it will make us worried that we know there's a vulnerability known in the world, and our cloud provider is not addressing it. Right? That becomes a concern, and obviously maybe. Go ahead.
As I think one of the things that I remember always in security, it's like it's layer by layer. It's if you design those stack in a way that each layer will cater for some of those vulnerabilities, some of those attack surface, reduce it. Having firewall from our side, fire from there, and traffic up to the level of application. That way of sophistication with dealing with the service itself is ensuring, as much as we think that we are clever in dealing with security issues, those people, black hat hackers would have dedicated time, effort, and the knowledge behind, finding a way to go through whatever means that you put in place. So sure. Whenever we see, a movement, if it's like Cloudflare, to secure the actual DNS authentication before you go to the traffic itself, securing those, ability to respond from servers of known problems or known vulnerability or even source of attack. Those type of technology is layered. So we need to secure the connectivity. We need to secure the interface between the actual local network and the cloud. It's the cloud itself between layers to secure only or to allow only type of traffic for type of application. It's like will make these stuff more tight without jeopardizing the accessibility of it for providing services. It's always a challenge. I think you're more than aware about this balance between accessibility and security and then availability of resources. What I like to see in the coming future that offering from cloud would come and reduce the anxiety of using the cloud as a service from outside with that type of offering. We said we catered for this. We know those type of vulnerability. We know these type of attack, and we already have mechanism in place, and we could share with you those metrics that will give you assurance in the next stage. So you could be more confident to move part of your infrastructure into the external cloud that we're going to provide. I think that will assure the adoption, more adoption in the coming days.
Absolutely. And that, we definitely look forward to, again, more options in Kingdom for cloud hosting with connectivity. Wonderful. I think that gets us right on time of 3:45 p.m. And again, Engineer Abdulaziz, we welcome you to come visit sometime, Kaust, and get to know you.
I'll be honored to visit you.
It's good to see you again on a virtual session. It's been a long year.
It's good to have these sessions. It's not to feel isolated anymore.
Absolutely. Thank you. Vivana, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mohamed, Abdul-aal, and Engineer Abdulaziz Alkhilaif. Thank you so much for your time at the World Cloud Show. We absolutely thoroughly enjoyed your session and a lot of key takeaways from there. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good day.